Okay. My name is Ron Beltran. In April of 2017, I was dispatched by the union operating engineers, Local 49, to go to a job up in northern North Dakota, right on the Canadian border. On my way up there, I got sick, stopped at a gas station, and I sat there for a while. A sheriff showed up, arrested me for DUI, which I hadn't been drinking. This was probably noonish, midday. I was on my way to work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't show up drunk, period.
Right.
So I was taken to the jail in Montreal County, North Dakota. It's called Stanley. And anyhow, so I wasn't given a breathalyzer. They said that I refused, but that was not true. I was never offered one. I'm arrested, thrown into jail. I'm having some serious medical issues. Finally, this older jailer, I get his attention. He comes, and I told him, look, man, since yesterday I've been bleeding from my anus. Can I maybe go to the hospital? He looked at that and said, oh my God, they didn't take you? And I said, no. I told him I would take any test he wanted me to. He wanted me to do a heel and toe thing, and I told him, look, I'm having severe pains. I have medical issues. You know what I mean? I have problems with my knees, my shoulders, my neck. Let's go to the hospital.
Right.
Did not happen. Did not happen. Straight to jail.
Okay. And
the thing that really gets me the most is I was standing outside of my vehicle when he first pulled up. He tells me to go behind my vehicle, behind my pickup. He gets in it, starts it, and drives it across the parking lot. Never once asked for permission. Not one time did he have a warrant. Not one time did he have any reason to get in my vehicle and drive it. Period. So anyway, we get to the jail. We go through all that stuff. The next morning, the jailer says, "Look, the judge wants to see you right now." So I went in front of this lady judge, and I just told her, look, man, I'm having this serious issues. The bailiff explained to her what was going on, and she said, you've been arraigned. Take him to the hospital, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? She was very good.
Right.
I get there. They do blood work on me. Their preliminary came back. There was no alcohol in my blood whatsoever. How could you be drunk one day and sober the next within just a few hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Blood, the alcohol doesn't disperse that fast, ever.
Right.
No, I was not Mirandized. Period. Ever. Ever. Not when I was arrested and the handcuffs went on me, not before I went into the jail cell, and not before I went in front of the judge. Never.
Right. Okay. Okay, so you're in jail. You're in jail overnight. New jailer comes in, or the jailer of the morning shift or whatever comes in. You go to the hospital. You get your blood test, among everything else.
Right.
Okay.
They do a stool sample.
Mm-hmm.
It's covered in blood.
Yeah.
The doctor says, "Hey, look, you have an ulcer." I said, "No, I don't have an ulcer."
Right.
I would know if I had an ulcer. You know what I mean? There's something else going on here. I don't know what the problem is, but I keep bleeding, and this is not good. Well, you have a perforated ulcer. Did they stick a scope down my throat and look? Absolutely not. They didn't.
Right.
So, 3 weeks in jail. I get bailed out. So the day I am bailed out, I went straight to the hospital in Dickinson where I was living, and went and seen the doctors, and the doctors checked me out and said, "You do not have an ulcer. You have colon problems. There's problems going on here." You know what I mean? And I was still bleeding on and off.
Yeah.
So they scheduled me with a gastrologist. In 7 months, I had 3 colonoscopies. One by the doctor in Dickinson, and then 2 by the best gastrologist in the state up in Bismarck. And he said, "We need to monitor you." You know what I mean? Because what's going on with you is very serious. It's cephalitis on both sides inside of my intestines.
Sure.
And he says it's extremely serious. It must be monitored. You need to come in every 3 months for you know what I mean, to be checked. Because if you don't, this could turn into cancer, and it could really give you some issues.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, what's happening is all of the other towns and cities in the state of North Dakota, they have this 24/7 program. And as long as you were on bail, you were required to participate. Okay. You go in and you blow into this tube, and as long as there's no alcohol, they let you leave.
Okay.
Well...
And this is because of the nature of the arrest.
Right.
Okay.
It's just a state law.
Right.
Most states have that now. It's to keep people from reoffending. You know what I mean? Is what it's for.
Right.
Whether it's a good program or a bad one, I can't tell you. So, Montreal County is the only town in the whole state that doesn't have what's called a scram bracelet. They put a bracelet on you with a GPS tracking device to where you can actually go to work and you don't have to report at 6:30 in the morning, 6:30 at night to do a breathalyzer. Without that, I'm unable to work at my job.
Right.
I complained. You know what I was told? Too bad.
So you don't have any money. You're going to have a trial, and you don't have any money coming in.
I have an attorney. I have a really good attorney in Dickinson, one of the best in the state.
Yeah.
But he wanted $20,000 and said, "Man, I'll have all this thrown out." You know what I mean?
Right.
How can you get 20 grand if you can't work?
Exactly.
So if you see the vicious cycle there, what ends up happening with the whole scram bracelet thing is everyone that's arrested in Montreal County can't get a scram bracelet. Because if you don't live there, you know what I mean? Wherever you live, the state law is if your charge wasn't committed where you live or where you're working, that county will not give you a bracelet. It's for the people in that county, period.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they were to give everybody bracelets that came there to go to work, they wouldn't have any for the people that live there.
Yeah.
And I understand. I do. It's not the point.
Right.
The point is, Montreal County should have never put themselves in that position.
Right.
And we did look into it, the attorney that I have in North Dakota, and he said, the problem is this. State law says it's a gray area, but he doesn't actually have to have a scram bracelet. As long as they have a breathalyzer. Federal law, on the other hand, says you can't take my right to work.
Yeah.
So, that being said, how many people have they done that to? That now you can't work, you can't hire an attorney, so now you're on the mercy of the public defender's office. That is so overworked because of the scram bracelet thing that they have no time for your case. Period.
Right.
When my public defender contacted me, he said, the best I can do is let you get a deal. I don't have time for you. You're supposed to be my attorney. I'm telling you, I have 500 cases on my desk and I have no time for you. Period. It's not up for discussion. Well, what about not being Mirandized? And what about my vice being Mirandized? He said, maybe you don't understand. I have no time for you or anybody else. The best I can do is make you a deal. I said, no deal. I will not plead guilty to something I didn't do. I refuse. So
that brings us up to your trial, right?
That brings us up to the trial.
Okay.
The trial was less than legal, I can tell you that much. The first public defender that I had quit 2 weeks before I go to trial. 2 weeks. So the head of the public defender's office takes my case personally. I meet him in court. I have to drive 5 hours to get to this courtroom from where I live. I get there, he said, I just opened up your file this morning. What the hell?
Wow.
You know they're going to throw me in prison for a DUI, and you're not even prepared? Well, don't worry about it because they're going to give me a continuance so that I can prepare. The judge refused, said no. So we go to pick the jurors. All but 2 of the jurors sitting in that courtroom had been on the jury multiple times that year. All but 2. Which is illegal. That is illegal. You cannot be on a jury but only once a year.
Right.
Not every other month. You know what I mean? Really?
And you said some of them even knew the prosecutor, is that right?
Oh, yes. My attorney did ask, he asked the right questions. He would ask them. He had them raise their hands. How many people have had jury duty in the last year? Everybody but 2. How many in the last 6 months? Everybody but 2. How many in the last 3 months? Everybody but 2. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like...
Yeah.
Then he did ask, how many of you know the state's attorney? Over half raised their hand. Over half.
Wow.
That's automatic dismissal. You have to leave.
Right.
I don't care if you went to a volunteer thing and you sat and talked to him over a cup of coffee. You are disqualified. Period. Federal law says that I have rights. I have rights.
Sure.
But not in Montreal County, I don't. So, we're forced to pick a jury from people that have been on the jury, that know the state's attorney. Well, let's really make it worse for me. My attorney says, hey, look, I have this evidence I want to present, and the judge said no. What?
Oh, okay, why?
He said it is not pertinent. How could it not be pertinent if my attorney says that I was having medical issues and I wasn't drunk? We have blood tests from the hospital. We have statements from my doctors. You know what I mean? We have everything in this file.
Yeah.
And the judge said no. It will not be admitted into evidence. So, they take me off the stand. Yeah, I went on the stand, and the judge, or not the judge, my attorney asked me questions, I answered them. The state's attorney asked me questions, I answered them. The deputy gets on the stand. First of all, he did not tell the truth like it was in the report. Second of all, my attorney asked him, did you have permission to Mirandize Mr. Beltran? Did you have permission to move his vehicle? No. Did you Mirandize him? No. In open court,
Right.
in front of the judge, in front of the state's attorney, and in front of these jurors.
And what was his basis for accusing you of being drunk in the first place? Like, what did he say happened that caused him to to, well, not even pull you over, but to, you know, interrogate you on that
He
subject?
claimed that someone called him on his cell phone and said that they seen me driving down the road, all over the road. How could that be if I'm sitting in a gas station?
Right. So it wasn't the officer that saw you.
Right. But he did say that he seen me driving, and then he didn't see me for a few minutes, and then he sees my pickup sitting at a gas station where I had been all along.
Right.
I had never been out on the road.
Right.
Never.
Yeah. Because you were very sick.
Right.
And you were in that gas station for like what, half hour?
20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Never once was I out on the highway 2 like he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It never happened.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because this is the way that it is. All of my rights have been violated since 2017 in April. Everything. I was thrown in prison for something that I didn't do. Okay, fine. So the judge gives me 3 years. I'm sentenced to 3 years in prison. Let's just get on through to the end of this whole thing.
Mm.
So I go to prison. Okay, fine. Well, you know what happens when you go to prison? They have a drug and alcohol counselor come and evaluate you to find out what level of issues you have or don't have. The report said, why is this man here? He doesn't have a drinking problem, doesn't have a drug problem. What is the deal with this? The sergeant at the time, Sergeant Jen, she kind of reads through what had happened and she goes, we get a lot of this from Montreal County. Don't feel like they're just picking on you. This happens a lot there.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
and this is coming from a prison guard that sees it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sent to this BTC place. That place was the biggest joke I've ever seen in my life.
Sure.
It was like everyone there is high. Everyone's drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and why am I here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you stick me in a rehab with a bunch of drunks and drug addicts.
Right.
And just me and a handful of guys are sober. Wow.
So you were saying that the county actually has a profit motivation to do this to people.
And this is what we found out. For every conviction that a county gets, doesn't matter what county, a county gets, they're compensated from the state to that county, from the feds to that county. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, they get money. And on top of that, the state's attorney gets a win in the win circle.
Right.
So, who has more motivation to have people thrown in prison, whether it's legal or not? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying about that. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now, they got a brand new courthouse, new squad cars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if they're wearing any type of body cameras or anything, but that was the other deal that my attorney brought up. When I was arrested, there was no body camera. There was no camera in the car. All it was his word. Period. Period. And when I tried to get my attorney to get the surveillance tapes from that gas station, said he didn't have time. And for me, being a citizen, I cannot get them without a warrant.
Right.
Period. I tried.
Wow.
If you're an attorney, yes.
Yeah.
If you're law enforcement, yes. If you're just a citizen, absolutely not. Because they don't want you to see things that happened in that gas station, or, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You could be stalking somebody, is what I was told.
Yeah.
So they couldn't just give it to me, and I said, well, I'm going to give it to my attorney. Right. My attorney said, what are you getting that for me for? I can't do anything with it.
Huh.
But if it proves I was there and that he lied, you need that. Don't you? You would think.
Right.
But obviously not.
Huh.
So anyway, there's issues at BTC. I kept going out and getting a job. They said, you have to have a job. So I went and got a job. I come back and said, look, I got this job.
Right.
Well, you can't work there. Okay, why not? You know what I mean? You said get a job, I got one.
Right.
Well, you can't work at that job. And in a month's time, I probably got 24 jobs. And it just became a joke. I mean, it was like I would go back and say, here, I have another job. Oh, you can't work there. And it was like, and there was jobs that I was approved for. They would call and request me to come to work, and I wasn't getting my messages. So, you know what I mean? Wow, what kind of system is this? I mean, it wasn't just me. This was happening to a lot of people. They got my money from the feds and everybody else. The state's paying them for me to be there. You know what I mean? They're getting all this money, and they go, just get him out of here. The guy's a problem. Well, yeah, I'm a problem because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and you're telling me to screw off.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, I stand up for what I believe in.
Yeah.
So I'm sent back to prison. Then they send me out to a place called the farm. I get there. They go, look, you don't have to worry about getting a job here. Okay? But you have to go to school. Why not? You know what I mean? Let's do whatever I got to do.
Right.
Oh, about 3 weeks in, I stepped on something in the shower, and I got a cut. I went. You have to put a kite in, a note, to the doctor so it could be treated. Never got back to me. I put in several. Well, I wake up one morning, and my foot is this big.
Wow.
And it's swollen all the way up past my knee. It was horrible. Big red lines. Doctor won't do anything for me. So it just so happens that Sergeant Jen that was in the prison is now working there.
Okay. Great.
Well, you know what I mean? It was, I mean, and don't get me wrong, the staff was awesome. I mean, they really were. They cared about you. The counselors cared. I mean, it wasn't like I was in a bad environment, because I wasn't. It was a very good environment. But I'm still in prison.
Sure.
For something I didn't do, I'm in prison. So I go to one of the staff members, and she takes me to the sergeant. Sergeant looks, she goes, oh my God, how long's it been going on? And I told her I've been sending kites to medical, and they won't do anything. She throws me in her car, takes me to the prison. She goes, look, I have to take you there and let our doctors look at you first. Well, they keep me there for 18 hours. And then you go, well, we need to take you to the hospital. Didn't even so much as give me an aspirin.
Right.
Just took me to the infirmary and threw me in a bed and said, okay, don't you think that I should have been at the hospital all that time? I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
So staff takes me to the hospital. I go to Sanford. We sat there for 14, 15 hours waiting to get in. Apparently, because you're a prisoner, you're way down on the bottom of the important list.
Yeah.
And I get it. The doctors told me, you don't know how many scams come across from the prisoners. Well, do you see that?
Yeah.
Does that look like a scam?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, they took and they did some blood tests, and they came back and they said, look, we need to operate. We need to cut the bottom of your foot all the way open, get all of that stuff out of there. And they had put me on an IV with antibiotics. And oh man, I was in horrible pain. So they gave me a shot, and it made me feel better. Finally, I get upstairs to a bed. A deputy shows up from the prison and shackles my swollen ankle to the bed.
And this did not feel good, I'm guessing.
I was coming unglued.
Yeah.
Well, I had this little buzzer thing to call the nurse, and I kept hitting the emergency, and she came in. Oh. The doctor came in and said, you will take that off him immediately.
Oh, my God.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
So he goes, well, I have to put it on the other foot. Just get it off. I mean, it was like, it dug into my ankle this much.
Oh.
I mean, well, it's swollen. 5 days, 4 days there. The prison had came several times to check on me. They sent somebody in from their accounting department, and they wanted me to sign this waiver saying that I didn't have to pay the medical because it wasn't my fault. And at that time, it was like 80 grand for me to be in the hospital for 4 days. And I asked the doctor, and he said, I can't tell you what it's going to cost to treat you, but you need to stay here for a minimum of 15 days, probably 21. We need to lance your foot open. We need to drain all that stuff out. The next morning or that afternoon, he came back in. Him and the other, I had like 4 treating physicians. They came in. They took a black marker, and I had red lines all the way from my groin all the way down to the bottom of my foot. 4 or 5 of them. So they traced them out, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Wrote the time, the date, and their name, and then took pictures. And said, the prison is making us release you. We fought them and told them, this is what, if you remove him from here, he will have this MRSA in his blood forever. He needs to stay here right now, and we need to deal with it now.
Yeah.
The prison said no. Absolutely not.
Wow.
So I'm removed from the hospital, go back to the prison. The prison nurse comes in, doctor, whoever she is. She goes, well, I'm going to give you these pills. And I said, you know what, let me tell you something. My doctor at Stanford already told me exactly what you're going to do, and it won't work. He said, you're going to give me these pills that are some kind of antibiotic to fight off this infection, but it ain't going to work. All it's going to do is make it, all it is a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It isn't fixing anything. It'll make the swelling go down, and that's it. But it is not going to get it out of my blood system. Period. She goes, well, I'm the doctor here, not them. Well, it is what it is. So, another person from the prison came, and I think the medical bill by that time was like $110,000, something like that. So they made me sign saying I wasn't responsible, which was good. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have paid it anyway, but, you know.
Sure.
So, I get out of prison. I was there until I went in January 13th or 14th, and I got out the middle of August.
Right.
So, of course, no scram bracelet, so how can I work? And we're right back to the same fight.
Right.
I did get some work with the temp agency, just barely enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have no medical through the union. I have no money paid in to my retirement. I have no money saved at all. I mean, there's plenty of work. They're calling me on a daily basis going, what is going on? And I said, if I show up to work, I'll work a week and I'll go back to prison. You know what I mean? And I'm going to have to sit out the other 2 years.
Yeah.
Period. Because I can't go to work.
Yeah.
Because of this scram bracelet thing. So for 3 years, well, now let's take that back. I'm out, and now Shelly, she ran the temp service. She sent me up to Dunn County. It's about 45 minutes away from where I lived, to go work on the courthouse. So I went up there and I'm working on the courthouse as a laborer, but the sheriff's department is right there, which made it nice because I could go in there,
Do your test.
do my test in the morning, and then do the other one when I got home at night.
Right.
The union calls me and says, we have a job right there in Dunn County. So I went and talked to the young lady that's running the program and said, look, man, I got a job here. I need a bracelet. You know what I mean? My parole officer was just awesome. Ashley Scholsky, let me tell you, she went to bat for me She did.
Yeah.
She called up there and talked to Beth. Beth ran the program and said, look, man, the guy needs to go to work.
Right.
And
right.
you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Not once have I ever failed the breathalyzer. You know what I mean? Not once.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not once have I ever done anything wrong. You know what I mean? I was doing everything I'm supposed to do.
You're just trying to work and make a living, right?
I'm just trying to get past all this garbage that I've just had to go through.
Sure.
That's all I'm trying to do. And so anyway, Beth says, you know what? I'll give you one. I need this much money, and I'm going to put it on you, and then every 7 days, you don't have to come here. You can go right there where you live in Stark County and just go in there and test it. But I have to pay for it, $40 a day. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm working. You know what I mean? I have a job.
Yeah.
It's good.
You have a good union job. You're, I don't know. Did we get I guess you can tell us what you do exactly. Heavy equipment, right? Just
yeah, I operate equipment for the union, Local 49.
Okay.
And we make good money.
Like backhoes and
dozers and hose and dump trucks and everything. You know what I mean? Blades. I operate all equipment.
Okay.
I mean, I've been doing it my whole entire life.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm working. Everything is fine. It's a good deal. I'm happy. I mean, it's like I'm leaving it at 4:30 in the morning so that I could be to work by 5:15, because we start at 5:30 whenever the sun comes up until the sun goes down. We're doing 12, 13-hour, 14-hour days.
Yeah.
6 days, 7 days a week. I'm good with that. Let's put some money in the bank, for Christ's sake.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Now I have medical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can go see the doctor. Before, I wasn't allowed, I couldn't get on any programs because I'm the one that falls, guys like me, we fall into this middle category. You make more money than it's allowed for you to get on this program. So, we can't do anything for you. Mm-hmm. And you can run the bill up for so long, go to see the doctor until the point to where their accounting goes, whoa, wait a minute. Unless you pay, I'm sorry, but we can't see you any longer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get it. When I work, I want to get paid.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I agree with the hospital, too. They did their job. I should be able to pay them. But without my insurance, how can you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
So I contacted the Attorney General's office in North Dakota. You know what I was told? If I want anything done, I need to contact the governor's office. So I did contact the governor's office. I talked to the governor's assistant. We were on a first-name basis when I would call.
Yeah.
And finally she said, there is really nothing that we can do for you. Well, for Christ's sake, who can? Mm. Well, you need to call the Attorney General's office. Well, I did.
Yeah.
And they won't do nothing for me. They sent me to you. And here we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody wants to step up and say, "Oh man, we screwed up."
Yeah, and what do you want to see out of this?
What I want to see is I want to see it to stop. I want to see all this crap stopping. Yeah. I want everyone to be able to play by the rules. You know what I mean? Absolutely. You don't make the rules up just because they suit you.
Right.
That is not the way the United States works. The way it works is, let me tell you, if I had been guilty, I would have stepped up and said, man, I screwed up. You know what I mean? And the deal they offered me was awesome. I mean,
right.
I mean, I could have just walked right out of the courtroom. You know what I mean? I mean, the state's attorney begged me to take it. He said, if you don't take this, you will go to prison. I won't.
Right.
I will not. I'm going to stand on my principles, and I will not plead guilty to something I didn't do. I just won't do it. So I went to prison on my principles.
Right.
But it should have never got to that. That is the point of this whole video. None of this should have ever happened. None of it. That officer should have showed up. There should have been 2 officers. There should have been a cam in the car and a body cam on him. I should have been taken to the hospital for a blood test, and all these things would have stopped everything else to come. Everything would have been null and void at that point in time.
Right.
Just because an officer says doesn't make it so. Just because you have a gun and a badge doesn't make you right. We've seen that for what, the last 2 years?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was crying about this way before there was any Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And everyone said, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
I want someone to step up and say, this is enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't beaten.
Right.
I wasn't abused, you know what I mean, physically. But here's the deal. It's still abuse.
Yeah.
You still took my rights. You still threw me in prison for something I didn't do. And I think it should all stop. I do.
Right. And you should have your name cleared.
I want my record cleared, and I believe that I should be compensated for my monetary loss.
Yeah.
Period. I know there is someone out there that is going to watch this video and say, you know what? It's enough of this. That is enough of this kind of behavior. It is not acceptable. It is just not.